Hello and welcome to the Total Soccer Show. My name is Daryl Grove and I'm joined by a man who's ripped up today's plan and said he's going to decide what's on the show himself. His name is Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
Hello. Does that make you the manager in this scenario?
I mean, I used to be, but TYC Sports is reporting that Taylor Rockwell has overthrown me and is going to be deciding what goes on Total Soccer Show himself.
We went niche real fast.
We sure
did. The thing
Welcome
we're alluding
to
to here.
Cup.
There are reports out of Argentina that manager Jorge Sampaoli has been relieved of coaching duties by the players and maybe backed by Argentine Football Association President Claudio Tapia.
They did a sort of Big Brother style vote. They voted him out of the team.
That's the allegation. That is what is being reported. There are also reports that Sampaoli is still there, that they've all decided to come together and be unified for the Nigeria game. So we will keep an eye on that because it seems like the Argentinian camp is not getting easier to navigate.
And here's why I'm excited about this, even though it's not definite news, is I don't think it's ever happened before where a team has just managed themselves. And I'm weirdly excited to see what that looks like.
Anarchy.
Like, will it be Leo Messi, captain, shouting over to the sideline to tell the coaching staff which subs are coming on?
I think it'll be Leo Messi telling people which subs are coming on.
Or will there be an assistant coach who's sort of like a puppet government that Leo Messi has installed and who looks like the coach, but it's actually all coming through the players?
It's credit to you that you've avoided the easy jokes, because I think the one that I've seen the most is they're going to play a 1-0-9 formation and see how it goes.
We'll find out on Tuesday when we might get the World Cup's first ever player coach. That will be exciting. If you're listening now, you're about to find out.
I feel like you've just opened the door for someone to be like, actually, in 1934, there was a player coach coaching for some team.
Definitely, please send us pedantic tweets. Nothing fills our heart with joy more after we've done a podcast than getting pedantic tweets.
Indeed. Indeed.
You're about to find out the England-Panama score. Spoiler alert, it's coming. 3, 2, 1. Add those numbers together, you get 6. It finished England 6, Panama 1. A very enjoyable morning for this England fan here.
Was it?
Yes.
Because I feel like when full-time went, you were still sort of like, well, they had those 2 misplaced passes and they conceded a goal. I just don't know. I don't know.
I was trying not to get too carried away because there were moments when it looked a little shaky coming out of the back. And I'll tell you what did...
was that before or after you were up by 5 goals?
Both. What did take the wind out of my sails a little bit is I did the math going into this and I knew England needed to win 6-0 basically, right? To make sure that we were clear of Panama. 5 goals to equal them on goal difference, an extra goal to beat them on goals scored and go top of this group. So 6-0 was great for me. 6-1, it really felt like in the stadium and in the commentary team. Actually, Derek Ray and Ali Wagner were very good, but they didn't get too concerned about the goal difference, maybe because neither of them are English. Yeah. But that goal conceded meant that it was now a bit more tenuous, right?
Yeah.
The good news is that England are still top on fair play. They have, 2 fewer yellow cards than Belgium.
There it is.
Sorry, 1 fewer yellow cards than Belgium. So it's very tenuous. So, that just made me a little bit nervous. Yeah. But mostly it was good.
Okay.
Mostly
the 6-1 win was good?
6-1
My
win
goodness.
was good. I really try hard to be neutral on the Total Soccer Show and not get too into it. This is the one World Cup, I think, where England might be good where I might be struggling.
But see, it's still there is the thing. And so it just like pops up in random, like going super deep on like, here's the fair play accumulation is the enthusiasm of Daryl masquerading elsewhere.
Yeah,
basically...
I think it's your job to whack-a-mole it every time it happens. So best of luck. You need a big hammer. But let's get into how England scored all these goals. I want to start with, weirdly, the kickoff. I think the kickoff said a lot about how England were approaching this game.
That is when the game usually starts. Let's do it.
It is, but for the last few games, here's what England have done. They have overloaded the right side. Then at kickoff, everybody sprints forward down the right, like 6 wide receivers all running the same pattern. They drop the ball to John Stones, and he lifts it high in the air, right? That's worked in a lot of the friendlies. In the first game against Tunisia, it didn't work. They'd read it, while Bikazri for Tunisia came and closed down John Stones, and they've been rumbled, right? Yep. This game... John Stones puts his foot on it like a general surveying the field. And the England players, instead of staying on the right, spread into their actual formation. And I don't know, the whole thing just looked very confident and in control from the first second.
I feel like I'm totally with you. Feel like we might be in whack-a-mole territory already. We're like 5 minutes in, and we are 12 seconds into the game.
Well, no, but I genuinely think this is important because this is the type of game where England have previously struggled against teams that bunker and make themselves hard to break down. Normally, England panic from the get-go against that type of situation.
Yep. Yeah. I think that makes sense to have that like level of concern going into it. I really do think my big takeaway from this game, maybe this is controversial, I don't know, is that this game really made me enjoy VAR because I don't think it would have been as interesting from a goal scored, England looked good standpoint because I think it would have been much more of a physical battle. I think Panama would have tried to CONCACAF because that's what you do if you're playing a superior opposition from superior league, superior talent level. You're going to try to make the game like come down to that level so that it becomes kind of a fist fight on the field. And I think it could have easily been England circling the ball. Maybe there were some fouls trying to slow it down, trying to make it disjointed. I don't think they were able to do that.
2 minutes in, we had a Gomez elbow in the face on Jesse Lingard.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, so I think that would have continued, and I think you would have seen some more of the play acting, some more of Blas Perezing, but why
didn't we?
Because it's all on VAR. So they kind of like at a certain point, the ref is going to look at a replay and say, "Hey, you poked was it Harry Maguire? You poked Harry Maguire in the mustache. Don't do that again." Like he did
do that.
It feels like it removes some of that incentive, and then obviously, like you look at how England get, I can't remember if it was the first or second penalty.
First goal was a corner kick. Oh, sorry, first or second penalty.
Yeah, but it's basically like it is them watching Harry Kane after the Tunisia game and seeing him get rugby tackled again, and they point to the spot.
Here's how the penalty kicks went down. The second one was Harry Kane getting pulled to the floor, similar to what happened against Tunisia.
Yep.
I think that is... It is a VAR thing in that people were complaining after the game. It was an issue after the game that Harry Kane did not get penalty kicks against Tunisia for getting dragged to the floor. I think refs were watching for that in this game.
Agreed.
Right?
Yeah.
And when, I can't remember who the Panamanian defender was, I think it was very silly to do that to Harry Kane, knowing that has been an issue that's going to be focused on in this game.
Yeah.
Fair? The first penalty, I don't think was a penalty.
Why is that?
I think, so it's Torres and... who's the other centre-back? Escobar. And Escobar sort of just steps across Lingard, but not too aggressively, I don't think, for the first penalty kick, the second goal.
What do you mean too aggressively? Like, does it have to draw blood to be a penalty?
No, I think you're setting a very high bar there in an attempt to make me look foolish. But I think he doesn't really interrupt his run too much. He doesn't really hip check him. He doesn't come sliding across him. He just puts his leg across and maybe even gets a slice of the ball.
I don't know if I would agree with that.
Okay.
I think he does. I think he does get his body first, and even if he gets the ball, he's still going. Like he's still basically going into the side of Jesse Lingard / maybe a little bit going through him to get that ball. When you're in the air in the penalty box, it's always going to be an elevated decision from the referee, and I think you've got to be extra clear and extra precise with that tackle because if you hit the player at all, and Jesse Lingard, I believe, Roman Torres is the biggest player in the tournament. We've heard that several times
by weight.
So I think you've got to be aware that if you're bigger and you run into a smaller opponent, even if maybe it's
a small Mancunian.
Yeah, if it's borderline legal, if you smash that, or not smash, but even if you knock them over, it's going to look like, oh, you've bundled into them and knocked it out of bounds.
Wasn't Matt Doyle of MLSsoccer.com, didn't you say he was on Twitter saying, hey, this isn't CONCACAF,
Yes.
you've got to be more careful at the World Cup, because there are fouls that you can get away with in the Hex that you maybe don't get away with in the World Cup.
Yeah, and I think he may have also said it was a soft penalty, but...
Things can be two things.
They can, and I think it always goes back to the don't make the ref make the decision. He makes the decision here. Then we get some CONCACAFing, I would say, because it's Gonzalez is standing next to Harry Kane, theoretically talking to his own goalkeeper, but really he's kind of talking to Harry Kane as Harry Kane is waiting to take the penalty.
The penalty. Oh, yes. Yeah. Well, Kane really held his own, breathed in and out, smashed it top corner.
He sure did.
All right, so Harry Kane, 2 penalty kicks. One goal,
spectacular goal.
One, basically an own goal that he scores for his own team. Yep. It's like a positive own goal.
Credit to Mohamed Salah this time.
Harry Kane hat-trick. I think credit to Ruben Loftus-Cheek actually, who was taking the shot. All right, but here's the real thing that I think England got right in this game that made the difference. They had designed set plays. And really good design set plays. They scored 2 goals from things that had been drawn up. One from a corner kick, one from a free kick. This is new territory for me. I am used to, my whole life has been, hopefully David Beckham scores this free kick and we just put all our money on that. Or aim for John Terry's head and we'll put all our money on that. What we saw here is much more complex set piece plays from England.
All right, so should we take the first goal first, as Pert Hapley would say?
First goal first, as Pert Hapley would say. Especially because it's the 8th minute against Panama, who were doing their 4-5-1. Again, there was a chance that this was England beating their heads against a 4-5-1 for a whole half. So to win a corner kick and score from it in the 8th minute, I think is very, very important.
I think so too. And I think it's worth noting that Ali Wagner, all over this one, had this one broken down before it even came to be.
She called it exactly. She said, John Stones from the penalty spot, that's what England like to do. That is exactly what happened. But what I like the most about this isn't necessarily just John Stones' header to the left on target, go on John Stones. It's the play from Ashley Young at the top of the box in the lead up to this goal.
Yes, because they're basically, I believe they're both being marked by Gomez again, Giancarlo Gomez. And
it's Murillo. It's Murillo. Yeah, New York Red Bulls Murillo is trying to mark John Stones at the top of the box.
Okay. And so it's basically Ashley Young sort of screens, like just puts the arm out a little bit, blocks Murillo from being able to track the run of John Stones, and so John Stones gets in behind basically, and it is exactly where Ali Wagner thought it would be. He gets the power header to it as Ashley Young very quickly removes the arm, so there's no evidence that there was screening.
I think what's happening is he sets a screen, meaning just like put his body in the way so that Murillo can't follow Stones into the box, right? Because this is right at the top of the area. Isn't Ashley Young briefly distracted trying to appeal for all the holding in the box? He tries to direct the referee's attention.
It's after the ball is already in.
But then I think he remembers what he was supposed to be doing, and so just puts his arm around Murillo's waist to slow him down, but does it, I feel like Ashley Young maybe could thrive in CONCACAF. He does it just long enough to slow him down, not long enough to be accused of holding him back, and that's enough to set John Stones free.
There we go. Yeah. John Stones with the big header. It is weird. I find myself struggling with like the idea that if that were flipped around, would I be like, oh, there we go, Panama are CONCACAFing, and they're using like sort of dirty tactics. And I think there is a line where it's like, if Ashley Young had punched somebody to stop it, or if Ashley Young had, like, I don't know, done...
I think if he'd held on. For me, if he'd held on to Murillo and really held him back with two arms, then there'd be trouble. But, we've been on corner kicks, right? There is a lot of grabbing, and there's definitely a weird fine line that you just can't cross. You've got to slow people down without fully stopping their momentum and making it obvious that you're holding on to them.
Yeah, and I think this play, like, it's a little bit, like, there's a little bit of mischievous behavior happening. But
that's great, right?
Yeah, I guess so, but then it's more so that it's drawn up, that it's planned up, that like we've got to create space for John Stones. So it's not just what Ashley Young does, it's the runs the other players make to vacate that space. So when the ball comes in, it's John Stones meeting it at like full stride, full stretch, full power, not going up for a contested 50-50 header.
And then the free kick from which I've forgotten who scores. Is it Stones again scores from this, or is it Maguire?
It is Stones again.
Stones again eventually scores at the far post.
Yeah.
It's a free kick about, I'm going to say 30 yards out, right? In the old days, David Beckham would have been striking this, right? And Panama do put a wall in front of it just in case.
Yeah.
But what you get is a very long discussion from, I counted, 7 England players in a huddle, as if they were about to like take second down, right? Really talking about what they're going to do. And then when you see it unfold, there are about 3 or 4 things happening on this free kick. All right, should we go through them chronologically?
Sure.
First thing, I think you noticed this, is Jordan Henderson was it Ashley Young, has strong words with Jesse Lingard about
it's Ashley Young. So Ashley Young, it's set up almost like it's an indirect free kick. So he's there for Kieran Trippier to pass to stop it. That would be theoretically what they're going to do is Trippier passes to Young. Young puts a foot on it. Trippier hits it from a different angle. Instead, Ashley Young stops.
And that draws out a wall for Panama, right? So they've got to commit 2 or 3 players to a wall, first of all.
But Young instead turns and yells at Jesse Lingard because I think Jesse Lingard has posted up on the wrong Panamanian player. So when we cut back to the wide angle shot, he's now moved over to block off
Escobar,
I believe it was, who was theoretically supposed to be tracking Jordan Henderson because he's now paying attention to Jesse Lingard. When the set piece goes, Henderson is able to check to with basically nobody marking him.
So Henderson peels away. Lingard blocks the path of Escobar supposed to be marking Henderson. So then Henderson is able to receive the ball in a more sort of central 20-something yards from goal position. Not to shoot, though. Instead, he then chips it to the back post where England players are waiting. I believe it's Harry Kane gets there to it. Kane nods it down into the box. And Raheem Sterling, in amongst all this, has managed to do like a hook run away from Roman Torres, who got worried about Jordan Henderson shooting. So he'd stepped out to Henderson. There's many, many things happening. So Sterling is completely free in the 6-yard box. I think Torres is trying to catch up. Gets a header to Harry Kane's header. That's saved. But then Stones is there at the far post, and he's made a weird arced run around to lose Murillo, I think, this time again. heads it in. It's another goal. But
Indeed.
there's a lot of things going on there. And I think even if you didn't follow everything I just said, that's a testament to how complex this plan was, especially for England.
Yeah.
I want to put that caveat on it, especially for England. If this was Germany or Brazil, we'd be saying, yeah, this is the kind of thing they do.
Yeah. And, you know, like I like to track celebrations. I did enjoy that there was no frustration for Raheem Sterling, like because I think he probably should. If he had that again, he probably is aiming for a corner. He's putting it in. But there wasn't any sort of sadness or resignation. It was just like happiness that England had scored again.
So Raheem Sterling doesn't get a goal.
Nope.
He is weirdly a guy under pressure. And I think based on the team sheet that was leaked, he was almost dropped for this game, right? It was almost Marcus Rashford starting alongside Harry Kane. And I think it was telling that Southgate left Sterling in for the whole game.
Yep.
I think he really wanted Sterling to get a goal. I still think he did enough in terms of being a problem for Panama.
Okay.
So not just the weird, you call it maybe half an assist on that Stones goal because his header was saved. Won't be credited.
I think that's a bit
Is that too
generous.
Too generous?
Yeah.
Okay, he gets an actual assist for Jesse Lingard's goal, which I'm going to say is the only good goal of the 6 from open play.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. Yeah.
So there's this goal where Lingard, it's the third goal, I believe, bends it in from the top of the box. Really good strike from Jesse Lingard after a 1-2 with Raheem Sterling. It's a nice outside of the foot layoff for Raheem Sterling. If you go back, Sterling has somewhat started this move by dropping all the way back to England's defence, receiving the ball, then I think getting the move started and making a nice run to find some free space between Panama's defence and midfield where there wasn't much space.
You are definitely a Raheem Sterling supporter over a Jesse Lingard supporter.
I support them both.
But you're talking about this.
Look at my shirt.
You're talking about this like Lingard screamer from 25 yards out that like goes top corner, tings off the crossbar, and you're like, but it's a really great layoff from Raheem Sterling who gets the assist.
To be fair, I'm not choosing sides here. I was more just trying to make the case that Raheem Sterling had a lot of useful moments in this game, even if there might be a narrative out there that he didn't score, therefore maybe his starting spot should be under pressure. But let's talk Jesse Lingard if you want to talk Jesse Lingard.
Sure, and then we can go back to Raheem Sterling. I think Jesse Lingard equally, except he gets on the score sheet. I think he had a game where you might think like, oh, he had that goal, but he didn't do much else. He kind of had some heavy touches. He drew the penalty. But I think if you start going down that route, you'll eventually be like, oh, wait, I'm starting to list a lot of like net positives. And I think it's his movement that opens up space that leads to, I think, the Harry Kane indirect goal. It's like him moving around and trying to cause problems and trying to pull Panamanians out of position.
Exactly that.
Yep.
Yeah, it is exactly that. I think that's the huge positive of Lingard is he understands space. He understands how to get open. England suddenly have more players than they used to that are able to do that. And I think that's the big thing about this England team. One thing I'd like to talk about is the Harry Kane weird goal where Loftus-Cheek shoots and it deflects off of him, is what England are doing in the build-up to that. Is, again, a thing I've never seen before.
It's a lot of, again, not to get like hyperbolic here, but it reminds me of Man City when they're in their form where it's pass, it's moving the ball, and it might just seem like you guys don't need to be completing that many passes. Same thing Barcelona did under Pep Guardiola.
Yeah, but going nowhere, right? It really is like centre-back to right, centre-back to centre-back to right, centre-back, but it happened faster than it took me to say it. Right? It's one touch, one touch, one touch, one touch.
It's not like put your foot on, look around, there's no options, slide it back. He puts his foot on, looks around, there's no options. It's very fast, and it's designed to pull out a Panamanian defense that was bunkered. This is the second half. They don't want to get scored on again. Right? Yeah, they do not want to have any sort of more embarrassment, so they're all sitting deep. But the more England do that, eventually someone's going to step because it's kind of embarrassing. You don't want them to be able to just pass and pass and pass and pass. And somebody steps, and you can see the back line take a step forward and another step forward and another step forward.
It annoys them into stepping out just a little bit.
And eventually you've created 2 or 3 yards of space that weren't there before. And when you move it, now they start to spread wide too. Jesse Lingard makes a run. Suddenly a space opens up, and that's where they find Ruben Loftus-Cheek with like a 40-yard ball. And so it's a lot of simple little setup. It's like a lot of jabs to set up the uppercut.
There we go. And Loftus-Cheek sort of scuffs the uppercut, but then Harry Kane moves in for the finish afterwards.
Yeah,
Mortal Kombat style.
Sure.
It is weird to me now. Harry Kane is top scorer at the World Cup with that goal.
Yeah.
That accidental goal.
It's good. I think there are worse things that could happen to Harry Kane, such as being forced to take corner kicks again. But you got to be in the right place at the right time, Daryl. That's how it all works.
All right.
Two other things I wanted to talk about.
I was done.
Okay. Well, I basically just wanted to say if you go back and watch the first 10 minutes of this game, I think it should make you very optimistic as an England fan because you have them basically trying to play out of the back even when they make a few mistakes, as we talked about previously.
There was the early one where Stones didn't find Ashley Young and there's a Panama counter-attack. It's 0-0 at this point, and I believe it's Anaval Godoy just skies it completely.
But they keep going, and that's the thing. Is like it doesn't the next time they have the opportunity, it's not John Stones just kicking it because he doesn't want to make a mistake.
Yeah.
They kind of stay dedicated to that approach.
This happened against Tunisia as well, right? This is part of the England experience, is you maybe have to just ride that first bump in the road and keep going.
Yeah. And then in the first couple minutes, Raheem Sterling, as you said earlier, he drops in to try to pull Panamanian players out of position, which he does. And when he turns, he gets a little bit of like a chest bump from Gomez. He knows exactly what he's doing.
Not in a good way.
No. But because of that, like Raheem Sterling has a momentary like, whoa, what are you doing? But then he just sprints behind him. And like he kind of sets him up almost and then opens up space.
Yeah.
And I think it's like dealing with the physicality of a bunkered opponent and doing it well, but then not being afraid to go into challenges yourself. I thought that was all very optimistic or like positive signs from England. And then obviously them scoring inside 10 minutes probably didn't hurt either. It just feels like they have a greater variety of options at all times than they've ever had previously.
That makes sense to me. All right, final group game is going to be against Belgium.
Yep.
If that game finishes 0-0 and no yellow cards, England top the group.
Yep.
If that game finishes 0-0 and England get a yellow card and Belgium don't, everything's even.
Yep.
I think we might be drawing lots if that's what happens.
Yeah, that may end up happening. I'm pretty sure there'll be some goals in that game versus Belgium.
Let's hope so.
I wouldn't worry yet.
We'll preview it more when we get there, but my feeling is if you're England, just try and win that game.
Yeah.
Because it's just better to win your game and top the group, and don't even worry about who you're playing from Group H.
Yep.
Right? Because in many ways, there's no big scary team in Group H. There's no Germany. There's no Brazil. So it's silly to start thinking about other things except just putting yourself in the highest possible position in Group G.
The other thing I would advise in that game for both England and Belgium is if the other team scores, don't try to restart play while the team is celebrating.
So Panama did do this.
They did.
Panama tested a theory that has been bouncing around this World Cup, right? So
I'm going to say an internet fact.
An internet fact.
Yes.
Someone should have checked Snopes. So I think this started with the Portugal game, right? When Portugal scored against Spain, they did a thing where they had everyone ran off the field celebrating except for one player.
It was Jose Font.
Jose Font stayed behind, I think on advice from another player.
Yeah, a player turns around and says, like, stop. You have to stay on the field. Right?
And this internet rumor got started that if you have all your players off the field celebrating, the other team can go and kick off, right? And then I think when Harry Kane scores the second goal for England against Tunisia, they do a similar thing. I think it's Kieran Trippier who is asked to stay on the field so everyone can celebrate. All the England players, I think, went off the field.
They did.
At some point, I don't know which goal it was, at some point in this game.
It was one of Kane's penalties.
Panama tested this theory for us.
Yep.
They went and kicked off
They did.
and ran it down the field, and it was just they were just going at them. Referee called it back.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think we've looked at the laws,
Yeah.
right? The law is players can kick off when everybody is in their own half, with the one exception of the guy taking kickoff.
Yes.
So you cannot kick off until the other team is back in their own half.
Yes, this feels like a thing that
Law
somebody...
8, right? Law 8.
Feels like a thing that somebody reported as fact, and then it kind of spread from there. And I did see when this clip of Panama trying to restart was posted on Twitter, it was a lot of, oh no, you can actually do that, and people saying, show me the rule. And then there was silence. So
I read it on the internet?
Yes, exactly. So no, that is not the case. Everybody's got to be back in position. The ref's got to blow that whistle to allow play to resume. The outlier is that, I think we talked about it briefly, like there was like a UEFA youth competition where the team celebrated by running to their own half to celebrate with their teammates. So then they were technically on their own half and the other team kicked off.
So that's why it did happen that one time,
Yes.
right? But it's not because people were celebrating in the corner.
No.
Yes. Something I think is worth celebrating is a new sponsor on the Total Soccer Show.
Agreeance.
Welcome to the Total Soccer Show advertiser ranks to Grip 6 belts.
The only belt with no holes and no flap hanging out. It makes it incredibly comfortable.
So Grip 6, the number 6, GRIP number 6. It's American made, American invented.
Yep.
It is all based out of Draper, Utah. This belt was invented in the garage of BJ Minson. BJ Minson. He's the owner and inventor of the Grip 6 belt.
I'm not going to lie, their About Us really sold me.
Yes,
even more
right.
so than the product, it was the idea of like they created it in their garage, and some garages are pretty and clean, and some garages have like sweat and sawdust and oil. And I was like, yeah, they do. I want to build stuff too. I want to make belts. Like, I was into it.
Here's what sold me.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in the positivity of domestic-made products, not just for America, but in Britain, I'm into British-made products. The fact that they put no wiggle room in their language, right? Sometimes you see assembled in America,
Yeah.
but it's not quite clear where.
Or
the parts.
made in America because the Marshall Islands are technically American territories.
Right.
Yeah.
This belt is manufactured in the USA using domestic materials and machinery, including custom machines that they use to specifically create these belts. So, what is so special about Grip 6 belts, Taylor?
Again, there's no holes, there's no flap. It carries a low profile with a buckle that lays flat against the waist, so it's incredibly comfortable. It's essentially you don't have to find the hole and hope that one of the sizes or poke a hole through it. It's basically once it feels good, once it feels snug, you clip it in, and I think they compared it to thousands of tiny badgers holding your belt in place. Is I believe roughly the description they go for.
Of tiny badgers.
Yes.
So there's webbing that the buckle grips onto. That's the sort of special thing. You can try and make this yourself. I doubt you'd be able to put it together like they do at Grip 6.
That's probably true. It's just the imagery of I want to build stuff, but I do like the contrast of I want to do stuff in the garage versus Daryl. I'm all about sustainability and doing things the right way. Yours is probably the better way to do it, Daryl.
There's also the Grip 6 A3 Garandam T. The Garandam T. Do you know what the 3 A's are for, Taylor?
That they definitely do it?
Yes. Also, the belt can be returned for a full refund anytime, including shipping, anytime, any condition, any reason. Those are the 3 A's.
So if the badgers go berserk, then they can be returned for tamer badgers.
Exactly.
Yeah, perfect.
It's a comprehensive lifetime guarantee called the Garandam T.
All right. So once again, that's grip6.com, GRIP, the number 6, and then a period, and then COM.
And we can
I
say...
did the full one.
Thank you. Can say we have 2 Grip 6 belts
sure do.
winging their way to the Total Soccer Show office. So we'll be trying these products for ourselves very, very soon. I'm genuinely excited because I need a belt upgrade.
As am I. And our listeners should be genuinely excited because if they use the promo code TSS at checkout, they can get 15% off their order.
15% off your first Grip 6 belt at grip6, GRIP, number 6.com, as Taylor said. TSS for 15% off. Thank you to Grip 6, an American company, for sponsoring an American podcast with one British guy.
All right, spoiler alert for Japan-Senegal, 3, 2, 1. That was quite a game, and it was quite an interesting game.
It was fun times. It finished 2-2, Japan 2, Senegal 2. A terrible goalkeeper error apiece.
Yeah, and that sort of is the narrative of the game because Senegal's first goal comes about from I would say a howler from Kawashima, the Japanese goalkeeper. Then how do we do it properly? Was it Jai? Did I get it right? Okay.
Yeah.
Jai, the Senegalese goalkeeper, has a howler. Maybe not a howler, but makes a couple mistakes at the end of the game to give Japan their equalizer.
One to start, one to finish.
Yes.
Should we get into it more specifically?
Yeah.
Okay, so the first goal. It is that Kawashima weird decision to punch the ball into the ground after there was a shot from my man, Sabali. I've been big on this left back for Senegal, number 12, you'll see him. Right-footed left back, loves to get forward and use his right foot. This time he, again, drifted to the centre. Was it when the ball came over, he was there to take the shot at Kawashima. Not the best shot, but I really think this is the weird advantage of having a right-footed left back is that he'll take unexpected shots.
Yes, and I think that highlights sort of what I think Senegal got right about this game is that they put the right players in the right positions to get a result. So I think Sabali, as the left back, cutting inside, using that right foot, but kind of making that trailing in behind run to get that big finish at the end, similar to what happens for their second goal. But even before this...
Much more on Sabali for their second goal. Ooh.
But even before that, you have Nyang, who started as the lone target striker up top. Big, physical. He didn't mind using those elbows, as Warren Barton told us several times, but he has the technical ability, Nyang, to settle the ball under pressure and really do exactly what you want from your hold-up striker, which is, in the lead-up to this play, it's a long diagonal over the top. It's played into him off the diagonal, and he holds it up. He holds off the defender, waits, rolls it outside. That's where the cross comes from that eventually leads to the shot.
So I didn't know that.
And basically what I'm getting at is that he's involved in both of these goals. He's another player who we've seen this a couple different times with a couple different games. He's one who I bet gets criticism for not scoring, and he didn't really create many chances, but he's always kind of there in the background.
For sneaking on the field? I mean, he was very much there in the background in the game against Poland.
This is true.
So, can we talk about Kawashima's decision to face Sabali's shot by punching the ball into the ground and essentially into the, I believe, left patella of Sadio Mane?
Yep.
Mane gets the goal.
He does.
Without really knowing what he was doing, right? He just stood in front of the keeper. He was ready for a rebound. He wasn't ready for the keeper to punch it straight at him.
No, and I still really... I can guess as to why Kawashima does this, but when you punch the ball, you want to punch it when you're rising to meet the ball, so you're punching it away over the heads of the other players. Yeah. At best, he's going to do what he does, which is punch this into a scrum of players, and then you don't know what's going to happen. all I can think...
Or straight into Senegal's most famous player.
Yeah, right. All I can think is that he's distracted by Senegal's most famous player, and he's worried about him getting a foot to it first.
Yeah.
And so maybe Kawashima thinks he can't take it cleanly. He's got to try to beat Sadio Mane, which he does not do.
By take it cleanly, you mean take it into his arms and collect it. And he thinks maybe there'll be a collision with Mane, so it's safer to punch it.
Or even if he's like waiting for the ball to come so he can catch it into his chest, the way you would normally see a goalkeeper do when they're kind of diving out like that. I wonder if his fear was before that ball comes to him, Sadio Mane steps in front, just gets that little poke or something like that, and then because he's waiting, he ends up conceding, but because he doesn't wait, he ends up conceding.
Did you see Nishimo's face, the Japan coach?
No.
They cut to him on the bench after that had happened, and he just had that disappointed dad look of, oh no.
I'm not mad.
Yeah.
I'm just disappointed.
Yes, exactly.
So 1-0 to Senegal. Again, Sadio Mane gets the goal, even if he doesn't necessarily know he's getting the goal in the moment. But Japan able to equalize before the halftime break.
Yeah, so Japan equalized with what I think was their... I think it's probably obvious if you watch Japan a lot, but I didn't know this before the game. Number 5, Nagatomo, their left back, loves to get forward, and not in a small way. He will sprint forward, bomb forward all the time. This is his 3rd World Cup, apparently. I found that out today as well. So you had the overlapping experience of pacey left back Nagatomo going up against the inexperience of Senegalese right back Wagwe, with in front of him Senegalese right midfielder Sarr, who is I think they're both teenagers.
Wagwe is definitely 19. I think Ismaila Sarr is 19 or 20, but I'm inclined to say they're both teenagers.
So 2 of them are almost the same age as Nagatomo, I believe.
Yeah.
So Nagatomo, I think, really exploits maybe the inexperience of these 2 teenage wide players.
And I agree, but I would also say that this is a very clever choice from Japan's manager Nishino, because I think if you look at the tactical cam, you've got Senegal really trying to kind of keep it compact, stay narrow, not let Japan come through the middle, and it kind of cedes possession out wide. And I think it didn't always work when Japan would try to swing it from one side to the other and go down that channel, but when they would look for those big diagonals, or those big switches of play, they did have opportunities, because I don't know if it was because of the youthful inexperience or it was because they didn't see that switch coming, but that's where this goal comes from, is basically those 2 defenders aren't necessarily ready for that big switch.
And we praised Ismaila Sarr for his willingness to not just track back from right wing, but to essentially be an extra right back in the game against Poland, because it really, really worked, right? But in this instance, I think he just let Nagatomo sneak in behind him.
I would argue, I think he's too focused on staying narrow, that he's really tucked too far inside and a little bit too far ahead, so that when that ball comes in, it's basically there's lots of room in which is it...
Shibasaki
thank you.
Plays the big diagonal. Yeah.
Yes, and basically he's able to control it, settle it, and then Nagatomo plays in Inui. I'm not sure he meant to. Inui, excuse me. And Inui... with a lovely finish.
So Nagatomo has a great first touch. All things like not a world class great touch, but a touch that at least controls that long ball. Then I think he accelerates a little too much, and that's why the ball sort of squirms its way to Inui. The key part to this, to me, is that Inui is open. And Inui is open because the Senegalese right back Wagwe had then gone to try and close down Nagatomo. So you essentially had Sarr and Wagwe on Nagatomo because they were panicking about him, and that leaves Inui wide open. I think a couple of years from now, both of those players will have enough experience to make sure one of them stays with Inui. But that's no good to Senegal today.
It's not, and that's interesting. So we'll hold on to the idea of maybe being caught out leaves them panicking, leaves them vulnerable. Keep that in mind when we get to Japan's equalizer.
I want to underline that this is just about experience, right? Nagatomo at his 3rd World Cup. These guys, their 2nd ever World Cup game. You know what I'm saying? I think that's the big difference here.
Okay, I'm with you. So what's the difference for Senegal's 2nd goal?
Senegal's 2nd goal. I'm having trouble remembering exactly. Oh, this is
it's a big old smash.
This is the wonderful Sabali moment, right? Sabali, excuse me. So I want to start with, this is coming down the left, right? Coming down Senegal's left. There's a great Sadio Mane pass. He has 2 guys standing him up. He chips the ball between 2 Japanese defenders into the feet of, once again, Sabali, the left back, the right-footed left back, making an interior run. He is the Senegalese Marcelo. I think I said it in the preview yesterday. He proved me right today.
And I think he proved you right, especially because we know Marcelo, not afraid to try stuff. He'll have a shot, he'll try a move, and in this case, Sabali, when that ball is chipped in from Mane, the first thing he does is he tries to do basically a jumping Cruyff to Meg the defender.
It's a mid-air Cruyff. I've not even seen Marcelo try that, I don't think.
No. I mean, and it almost comes off. It ends up banking off, I think, the defender's shin, but it goes back to Sabali. And then he does...
All right, Warren Barton, the defender's name is Shibasaki again. Number 7, Shibasaki. Do you know why I called you Warren Barton?
Oh, I'm aware, because it was driving me insane. It's part of the reason why I had trouble focusing in the second half, because he would not say a player's name aside from Sadio Mane. He said Keisuke Honda, and I think he attempted one more Japanese player's name, and then I think at one point said Osako or Ozakio or something.
I feel a little bit bad calling him out, but I do know that Barton is not there, right? They're calling this from a studio, I believe, in Los Angeles for Fox. I'm not sure he did his homework, right? It's not that hard to read the players' numbers, figure out who is whom, and then make sure you can do the call correctly. Instead of keep playing, good play by the Senegalese player, good play by the Japanese player. So you're on notice, Warren Barton.
It really was distracting, and it was not great work, but it was great work from Sabali.
Oh yeah, because so far all we've described is him attempting a mid-air Cruyff nutmeg that didn't come off
against the Japanese defender Shibasaki. He does I think you characterized it as a 180 roulette.
It's a half roulette.
Yes.
So he does a spin, but doesn't end up facing the same way as he started, which is like the Zidane roulette. He ends up spinning enough to come back the other way, opens up Shibasaki's legs, and then he pokes it through, puts a ball across the face of goal, gets his nutmeg, which I believe 5 points appeared in the air.
Perfect. With his left foot.
Is that what happened in FIFA Street? Do you remember that?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, it is. It's a left-footed cross from Sabali, which is great. But he won't get the credit on the sheet, will he?
He sure will not, because it is Nyang who has held his run. He makes a really good near-post run. The ball played just behind him, and he tries. I think he's trying to basically get that like kind of foot on it so he can pull it back and then try to hit it with his other foot.
He's trying the centrifugal half spin. That's the move. That's what I call it. You know, when you sort of receive the ball and drag it away from you around the other side.
Yes, and as much as I would like to say he means to do what he does, basically he isn't able to pull it off because the ball is played very much behind him as he's running in at pace. But that little redirect he does get with his, I believe, left foot is what changes the course of the ball so that it falls into the path of a streaking in Wagwe who hits that first time.
Fully clothed.
Yes. He's not doing a Frank the Tank situation. No, but he is on his horse. He gets there, hits that ball with... I'm going to say all the force in the world and crushes it into the back of the net.
Extreme prejudice.
It was. There we go. There we go.
So worth noting that we've talked a lot in this sequence about Senegalese fullbacks.
Yeah.
A lot of the preview, even our own preview, was very much focused on that have Sadio Mane on the left and look out for the pace of Ismaila Sarr on the right. We were really focused on Senegal's wingers. The fullbacks, who were guys I had never heard of either of them coming into this tournament, they were the real stars of the show today.
Well, I think I would say, though, in our defense, is that we were focused on them, so too were the Japanese defenders. And I think when they're heavily emphasizing don't let Sadio Mane get comfortable on the ball, there was a lot, I felt like, of like pokes and physical, just those little like you've got your back to goal, but I'm still going to let you know I'm there. Maybe 10% harder than I need to from a Japanese defender. I think they were trying to break up the rhythm of Senegal that we saw them have against Poland. And that's where you've got to have other players step up, and in this case it was those fullbacks.
That's interesting. That's an interesting way to look at it. But Senegal do not win the day.
No.
Honours finish even. It's 2-2. The equalising goal coming from...
Keisuke Honda.
Came off the bench, scored the equaliser.
Are you testing me now? I'm not Warren Barton. I don't think, although he did know Honda, I think, because he is quite recognizable.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, with the bleach blonde hair.
Yep.
Yeah. So Keisuke Honda, equaliser off the bench.
Yes.
But he's got to share credit, maybe, unfortunately, with Jai, the Senegalese goalkeeper, for at least 2 reasons.
There we go. So the first one is basically Senegal possessing at midfield. It's the sort of swing from left to right and back. And the left back, I believe it is, ends up swinging the ball all the way back to Jai. And this is where the problem arises for me in the beginning, is that all of the Senegalese players, as I said, it comes from the left side of their field. Their numbers are there. That's where the Senegalese players have kind of massed.
More specifically, Niang is there, and Niang is the target when Senegal kick it long.
And I think then Mane sitting just underneath him.
Which is the perfect situation, right? Maybe Niang nods it down to Mane.
And Sabali looking to make that over. You can just see what they're going for, which is like Niang knocks it down, Mane plays in Sabali, suddenly they're away. But instead, Jai, the goalkeeper, hits it to the other side of the field. You can see the way he shapes.
Not deliberately.
Nope, he just mishits it.
Yeah.
But the problem then is that he mishits it, it doesn't clear midfield, and it goes straight to a Japanese player. So now all of your players who are one side are now completely basically cut out of the sequence of play.
Yep, I think it's they've made some substitutions in midfield, so I think it's just Kouyaté is the lone defensive midfielder, not lonely, excuse me, lone defensive midfielder with the back four behind him.
Yeah.
But there's no other protection because everybody else is caught upfield.
Yeah,
so here come Japan.
And it is. I don't think we even said this yesterday, but it is in essence, a yo-yo attack. It's the counter press. It's basically when Japan get that ball, they go right at Senegal's defense before they can get set. And this is what I was saying to your point about the first goal, where it was the first goal Senegal conceded was a little bit of panic. This was definite panic, that now players are trying to cover because they've got Japanese players streaming in from all different angles. They don't really know who needs to pick up whom. And in that space, you've got that cross coming in.
From the right back Sakai, Japanese right back Sakai. The reason I want to shout him out is just because I want to complete the set. That we've had a big mention for every fullback, all 4 fullbacks, 2 from each team in this game. This was the importance of fullbacks game.
I mean, and Sakai showed that in the first game. I believe he picked up an assist or had the MLS assist for one of Japan's goals.
You mean the J-League assist?
I did. Thank you. I apologize. In this case, he plays it in, and this is where Jai, I think, makes the second mistake, comes off his line. I don't think he needs to, because it's far enough away that if somebody does get ahead to it, he'll be able to collect it.
It also has no bend on it, right? It doesn't. The cross from Sakai doesn't in swing and then out swing or do anything like that. It's more of a straight up chip. So there's no chance of it bending towards him.
No, and also Koulibaly and Sané, the 2 Senegalese center backs, have done a good job to hold their position and not panic and not get stretched. They're there to defend that. But Jai coming out, I'm assuming screaming Jai or keeper or what have you.
I wouldn't shout Jai if I was him, because there's 2 other Jais.
There's 2 others on the field. At least they started with 2 others. He comes out. He tries to punch it and just misses. But now he's out of position. He's knocked 2 of his center backs out of position. He almost kind of concedes a penalty trying to get back into play.
Okazaki?
Yeah, because he makes contact with Okazaki, who's now trying to get on the end of a cross.
I also sneakily think maybe Okazaki is involved in just blocking off Jai's path to getting up and making
There's a possibility that that's also the case, yes. But it doesn't really matter because nobody gets there except for Keisuke Honda, puts it in the back of the net, 2-2. And that's the way it finishes.
Fun game, though, right? Really fun game. And it sets up the group nicely. So we're recording this before we've seen who the other 2 teams, Poland, Colombia. So right now, Japan and Senegal both have 4 points. Poland and Colombia both have 0 points. Group H is finely balanced.
One final thing I want to say about this game, because it has been a thing that I've been a little bit frustrated by, is I think the officials were definitely told when the time goes, blow the whistle no matter what. And at the end of the first half, Nagatomo basically steps and fouls Sarr in the back. He gives him a shove, he knocks him over. It's about 30 yards from goal. It's an opportunity for Senegal, and you see the ref put the whistle in his mouth, look at his watch, think about it, and blow for halftime. And it felt to me very clearly... No, this was halftime. This is halftime. Okay. But it was very clear to me that he thought, this is going to send us into too much. We had a minute. No, it's fine. But in any other scenario, I think when you haven't gotten that instruction, it ends in a free kick at the end of the half.
Maybe there's another event scheduled right after the game.
Exactly.
So they had to make sure they finished on time.
Perfect. That makes sense. That makes sense.
Another event scheduled for later in the day at a different location was Poland versus Colombia. No spoilers on that just yet.
Oh, segues.
We'll let you know about today's sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace is a total soccer show sponsor. We built our website with Squarespace. That is how our website exists, squarespace.com. We would encourage anyone listening to use Squarespace because it is the easiest, bestest way to host your website.
Yeah, they've got...
and to design it.
Easy-to-use templates, customer service very helpful. They can help you figure things out. I really struggle with this type of thing. Daryl less so, but I was surprised by how easy it was to maneuver and navigate and figure things out.
I learned a lot using Squarespace's guides and then Squarespace's customer service. Yep. I knew enough to get myself into trouble. They knew enough to get me out of trouble. And between us, we got it done.
So let's talk about maybe somebody who Squarespace could help get out of trouble, because we're thinking if somebody wanted to create like a World Cup themed website, Squarespace would be able to help them.
So let's give people some ideas.
All right.
If I was going to launch a World Cup themed website, I think I would get the URL, I'll get the domain hastherebeen.a 0-0 yet.com and I would start with the front page would just have a big no. And then I'd have highlights of all the goals from World Cup 2018 because it's been a no 0-0 fest.
Yep. Two, I have one more serious than the other. One would be actualkickoff.time.com. That'd be a good one, so you can see what time the game actually kicks off. The other one, which I think would...
Just an angry Andrew Das from the New York Times.
That's all it is.
Images of him.
Yes. It's just like a gif of him for like a la Dennis Nedry from Jurassic Park. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't kick off at that time. Then the other one that I think would be really interesting and maybe actually does exist. I would love for somebody to keep a running tally. Like it could just be a digital stopwatch that gets clicked of stoppages of play within the game and how much time runs off. Because I am now obsessed with how many minutes are actually burned versus how many they add on at the end of the half.
That's interesting.
/game. Yeah.
So maybe even a tool you could use while watching the game just to stop, start, and then then it tells you how much added time there should be.
I think that is just a stopwatch, but I'm thinking more so like maybe you could like sync it up with the game so it helps you do it and it sends you reminders so you don't just like fade away in the middle of the game.
So you're saying maybe people shouldn't launch a website that's just a stopwatch?
Probably not. I think stopwatch.com is probably a thing.
I would also possibly launch a website just called varisgood.com, varisgood.com, with just all the instances where VAR has helped make the correct decision at this World Cup. I really think maybe like in England with the FA Cup, they got it wrong. In MLS, they get it wrong. I'd be interested to see the differences in how it's used. I really feel like at the World Cup, we are seeing the correct use of VAR to help get decisions right. So, edited highlights at varisgood.com.
Beautiful. So if people wanted to start their own website, if they wanted to check out Squarespace, Daryl, what would you recommend?
I would recommend going to squarespace.com. Start building your website. It's that easy. You can just build it at squarespace.com. When you're happy with it, when you've got all the correct VAR footage ready to launch, use the offer code TSS. That's TSS, and you'll get 10% off the launch price to send your website live.
Beautiful. So thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring today's program. Now, the final match of the day, the final match of the 3 games a day sequence, I believe. 3, 2, 1. It was Poland v. Colombia, 3-0 to Colombia.
I hope people knew that that's what the spoiler alert was.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm sure we've established it by now.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. 3-0 to Colombia. This was an impressive performance. I'm going to say, despite England's 6-1 win over nearby Panama, this is definitely the most impressive performance of the day because obviously Poland are a much better team than Panama.
Sure.
I mean, on historical evidence, maybe not on the day.
No, they are. But I think,
definitely
as we've seen a few times in this tournament, when you have that one marquee name, as Poland do with Robert Lewandowski, if that is sort of your fundamental way of playing is through that player, if your expectations are that that player carries the team as he did in qualifying, then it can be problematic because, similar to stuff we've already talked about today, the other team is also very much aware that you're trying to play through that player and will do what they can to shut it down.
He's got his name on the back.
Yeah.
It's really easy to find.
That's how it works.
So let's talk about how, before we talk about Colombia's goals, which, by the way, before we talk about Colombia's goals, let's talk about how they shut down Robert Lewandowski. I would propose there are at least 2 methods that they used to shut down Lewandowski.
The Jimmy McNulty front and follow would be one of them.
Jimmy McNulty front and follow. Is that what he gets his kids to do at the mall on Stringer Bell?
Yes, it is.
I was going to say spoiler alert for The Wire, but you can't really spoil The Wire, right? It's so interweaved.
That's also that's deep. That's not really like specific to a plot point.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, it's essentially you have one in front, one behind, one fronts, one follows, and that's basically what Colombia did. They kept one in front of Robert Lewandowski. They kept a center back on him. Basically, they always had a center back near him on him, and then they had a defensive midfielder on him most of the time, so that it couldn't really be played into his feet. It could be played over the top that easily either.
So yeah, that's it, right? Yeremina or Davison Sanchez would be right behind him, and both of them are fast enough, smart enough that they're not going to let him run in behind. I think they're faster than Lewandowski, right? He's not slow. He has a nice little burst maybe, but he's not going to win over 100 metres or so, right? Then in front, like you said, there's one of the defensive midfielders. It could have been Barrios, could have been Aguilar. Later on, it could have been Uribe. And I think that's weirdly the harder part. Because you can't just stand on his toes in front of him, because then Lewandowski could just step to the left and run forward and he's away from you, right? You have to stand a little bit, like 10 yards away from him, and you're constantly moving around, just making sure that the angle between the Polish player with the ball and Robert Lewandowski's feet is cut off at all times. Easier said than done.
I would agree with that. I would add, though, that it's not necessarily, in my opinion, about always making sure that pass isn't on. It's, I think, partially that, partially making sure that if the pass does eventually find itself to be on, it's because Lewandowski has had to move. He's had to change his direction. He's not getting it in the position, in the space where he wants it.
Like centrally and far forward.
Yeah, he has to sprint 15 yards to the left or drop 10 yards in to try to be on the ball, but then suddenly they've lost the focal point of their attack. Multiple times, especially in the first half, Poland would get the ball wide. They went with the back 3, back 5 system, and they would turn to go upfield, and Robert Lewandowski would have dropped into the middle or dropped centrally or pushed out to the other channel, and nothing was on it. They had to cut it back, and then Colombia are on them aggressively, and there's really nothing for them to do but kick it long or concede possession.
Would you agree that Poland still tried to go to Lewandowski even though Colombia had shut it down? And to me, that's the Polish problem, right? Is that you have to, at some point, accept that they have shut this thing down and maybe just look for Zielinski's feet or do something else, right?
Yeah.
Because the other players are capable enough that you
Certainly.
should give them the ball.
And to his credit, Robin Lewandowski almost had a few moments. He had a couple headers in the box. He had the one in the, I believe, 49th minute or the 51st minute when there's the ball over the top for Lewandowski that he almost brings down.
He
Can't quite do it.
He puts it on a cushion and just gently lowers the ball to the floor.
Yeah. And I think
Espina's out there.
And he even with that sort of attention from Colombia, he still found moments. He just couldn't find clear-cut moments. And I think another big part of why that was the case.
This is number 2?
Yes, is because, especially in the second half this time, Colombia really pushed that line all the way up to the point where there were times when Poland would get the ball within 15, 20 yards of midfield. Colombia's defenders were basically at midfield. They were pushing that line up, and I think essentially they were trying to tempt Poland into the long ball and then backing themselves, particularly Yeri, not Jerry, Yeri Mina, to be able to have the pace to handle the long ball.
And if you've seen Davinson Sanchez play for Spurs, he can cover some ground as well, right? So I'm sure they were just happy to challenge Lewandowski to a foot race on a through ball. And then everybody ahead of them, it's not just that the defensive line was high, then everybody ahead, the midfielders and the forwards, worked really, really hard in terms of pressurising, pressing the ball, so Poland could never, ever settle. They probably couldn't even play that through ball for Lewandowski over the top if they wanted to, because they wouldn't have time to look up and do it. Yeah.
And so while I think Poland shot themselves in the foot on a couple occasions, it really was just how good Colombia were, how prepared they were for this game that I think proved the difference. Although certainly having James Rodriguez and Radamel Falcao doesn't hurt either.
I would add, because that was the big question, right, was James fit enough to start, or would it be Quintero starting in James' place, as he did in the first game against Japan? Instead, they went with both. And I think this is
I know, you love this one.
I love it because we criticised Peckerman for being too attacking, too bold when he was down to 10 men. But in this game, he had 11 men and he started bold. He started basically with 2 playmakers. James is a playmaker. Quintero is also a playmaker. And it seemed like Quintero had James' role central, and then James was slightly to the left, but allowed to stay quite far forward. And you ended up with the 2 of them causing all kinds of left-footed damage. 2 left-footed playmakers. And I think both are heavily involved in all the goals.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think
the first 2 goals, Quintero was off, for the third one. But that's its own beauty.
Yeah. So should we go to the goals then?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. Should we start with the first goal?
Let's start with the first goal. Okay, so it's a corner kick, right? But it's much more than that.
Yes.
It's much more than that. I think the first thing we noticed is before the corner kick, we noticed some great work from Radamel Falcao.
Yeah, I mean, getting the ball.
He was doing the stuff that Robert Lewandowski dreamed of doing today.
I mean, yeah, to some extent he was, because he got the ball with his back to goal, but he had enough space to be able to pull it in, so then he pulls in the Polish defenders. Then he beats, 3 players with a couple different bits of skill, plays it wide, Cuadrado tries to cross, it's blocked out for the corner. But it's Falcao, I think, being able to drop into space because there are other options that occupied the Polish defenders. It wasn't just, they're obviously going to Falcao, we can stand in front of him, that won't be on. Because there were a variety of options, he kind of did find himself with some space on a couple occasions, this being one.
And then, short corners.
Master set-piece theatre, man.
This is master set-piece theatre, right? Okay, so the ball, I actually can't remember how many people are involved. Maybe James takes it to Cuadrado, who then plays it up to Quintero. Then Quintero's at the top of the box, shaping for all the world, like he's going to cross it in there for the 2 big centre-backs, Mina and Sanchez, or for Falcao to get ahead on it. But James has made a sneaky run around the outside, so Quintero puts all the disguise on it. And I believe it's correct to call it a reverse pass, right? In that it's going the opposite direction to the way your body is shaping. So left-footed reverse pass into James Rodriguez.
And before we get to what James did, I want to say this seemed to be another fixture of what Colombia were trying to do on the day. A lot of disguised passes. Quintero has 1 or 2 more in this game, but it really was play it low and drive it into the feet, but really throw off the other defenders. That's something I think we'll have to look for in Colombia's, at the very least, their remaining group game, the Quintero disguise, I'm calling it.
The Quintero disguise, that is exactly it. That's my Halloween costume. It's basically shape like the ball's going this way, and it opens up space for you to play it a different way and take the opposition by surprise.
It's going to be in a really annoying costume because you're just going to constantly change direction when I don't see it coming. It's like, what? He was here just a minute ago.
And Shannon will be like, I thought you were going to the kitchen.
But yeah, so then it's the reverse pass into James Rodriguez, who himself, I think, does a bit of a surprising thing, at least if you're a Polish defender, and he hits it as the ball comes into him first time with the inside of his left foot, but he's kind of facing away from goal, at the very least, parallel to goal.
So he should be hitting it with his right foot there. I want to say, I think James is kind of a genius, but I also think this was an instance of he just trusts his left foot more than his right foot.
Yeah. I mean, things can be two things.
He Jordan Morris this one.
Because it's still a very smart decision, and the way he puts the spin on it. He didn't use the outside of his foot. That's the key distinction there. I guess somebody else did later on. But in this one, it's just a really well-struck ball because it's got that loft, it's got that bend, but it's enough that it's always going to throw off Szczesny, and that's pretty much exactly what it does. But it's also the case that Yerry Mina is very tall and dominant in the air.
He's 6'4". So
he might have been 7'1". I don't know.
Yeah, but he is up and heads it past Szczesny. Yeah, and as I say, you should always send your centre backs forward for corner kicks because it gives you the most possible threat.
I did enjoy.
Long time listeners will know that's not what I say.
When I pointed that out to you, there was like a 3-second pause where I really do think you were trying to do some sort of. But in this specific instance, it's okay.
I would say the thing I don't like sending centre-backs forward is when you're already winning because you are at risk of being counter-attacked. I think 0-0 in this game where one of them has to win, I would say my theory still holds.
I will say, I've meant to mention this yesterday, that I did learn some important things about when Daryl thinks centre-back should go and how much he goes from 0 to 100. Because we were having this conversation, I think, with Germany yesterday when they were chasing. And I was asking, if you're really pushing for results, at what minute do you, Daryl, think you should send your center backs forward? And I think you were like 80th minute, if you're chasing 80th minute. And then at one point, like 3 minutes later, you're like, get Neuer in there. And I was like, what? And you're like, yeah, 83rd minute, get the goalkeeper in too. So it goes from 0 to 100 real fast.
My actual theory is if you're losing, send them forward. If you're winning or you've got a draw that you want to hold on to, keep them back and don't get counter-attacked.
Yeah, I agree with you mostly. I think the only thing I would add is that maybe you can send one forward if you want to make sure that you've got a companion with your center back, if that center back isn't very pacey. So if it's somebody who's a little bit slower, maybe you put in one of your fullbacks who can definitely handle the pace of any sort of counterattack.
Okay.
But I'm with you otherwise.
I wrote all these theories down so we can cover these.
Make a Squarespace site out of it.
One final question. The defender that scores, did he mean that?
Second goal of the game comes after halftime. No added time controversy this time, but some lovely work once again. This time from Radamel Falcao.
Oh yeah,
again.
Yes. Okay. So it's a layoff out wide to the advancing Arias, the right back, who's doing a bit of overlapping. He makes a run. Right, Falcao makes a run in behind. Doesn't come off because Arias squares it back to the man Quintero once again. What I love here about Radamel Falcao is he doesn't even spend a second being disappointed.
Nope.
He just resets, refreshes, starts a new run. And it's a good job he does because Quintero spots it and puts in another perfect left-footed pass, I think with some Quintero disguise on it. Not as much as the first time.
No, not quite as much, but just enough.
Because basically the disguise is his body is not shaped correctly for him to pass the ball in that direction, and yet he does. That's the disguise, right?
And enough that it definitely throws off Gregor Krychowiak, who's dropped in to try to defend Radamel Falcao. To his credit, he spotted that Falcao was running through unmarked, but then he over-pursues, he keeps Falcao on side, and he does kind of the worst possible doubling down of, I'm the one keeping him on side.
Yeah.
I will try to jump back and lean one way so it looks like he's offside, but in doing that, you completely take yourself out of the play. Now Bednarek has to try to come back and cover. There's no chance he's going to get there in time.
Krychowiak, if you watch this again, you'll see Krychowiak try to move forwards and backwards simultaneously. It's like his shoulders are going forwards, but his hips are going backwards, and he's like he's breathing in like he's a slightly overweight man at the beach.
Yeah.
And he's bent in a weird shape. It's a weird moment of indecision.
A slightly overweight man at the beach. Is that known to be exerting?
I guess so, yeah.
I
mean like he's stuck in his stomach in.
I see. I
was trying to be clear yet imprecise.
I see. On that note, I have to ask this. Is the Yerry Mina joke written down in your notes?
No, it's not.
I don't know if that makes it better or worse. You just looked at your notepad. I feel like it's there.
I've seen it. Well, the word mean is there, but that's because he scored the goal.
All right. Yeah. Fine. Well, also scoring the goal was wrong.
Some opportunities are just so good you have to take them. And when Radamel Falcao is through on goal, 1v1 versus Szczesny...
I like that you kept it going before I had time to say anything.
I 100% back him. So Falcao does the Jordan Morris.
He does.
Outside of the right foot to bend it into the far corner.
Yes, and take this however you want to. I'm not calling that a Jordan Morris. I'm calling that a Ricardo Quaresma. I'm calling that a Ricky Q. It's the Trivela, and it is, again, similar to what you're talking about with James, it is backing yourself with your dominant foot. When he's running in, Falcao, I think he recognizes he's got the angle to hit that with a little bit of bend, put it around, put it in the far side corner, and that's basically what he does with perfect technique.
I would say, I'm not sure if Falcao's two-footed or heavily right-footed, but
He has 2 feet.
The advantage of doing that Trivela when it's not the obvious thing is it has the element of surprise. You know what I mean? So maybe Falcao's expecting that shot to come from a left foot. When it comes from a right foot, it might take him by surprise.
Yes. Yeah? And say what you will about cliches when you hear the 2-0 is the worst scoreline to be up by. I think it's equally one of the worst scorelines to be down by. I would say 3-0 slightly worse. But 2-0 at that point, Poland, now they can't sort of sit back and look for their one opportunity.
Because they lose, they're out, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's when I think you really see them start to try to press forward, try to get numbers in there, try to overcommit in this case, and that's what leads to the third goal, I believe 5 minutes after this Falcao goal.
Third goal's good. Third goal might be the goal of the day?
Yes.
Yeah? All right, so it is. I actually can't remember who the Polish players are down on the right, but there's a Polish throw-in, right?
It is.
James Rodriguez reads the play that's come in. He reads that, I think it's Brzezinski maybe, is going to take a throw and have the ball passed back to him.
I think, yes, it is. I think you got that right.
Yeah?
So he throws it into Piszczek, who's dropping in. He's checked away, check two. He's trying to drop it back, but he mishits it, essentially.
And not only does he mishit it, if James hadn't read this, then Brzezinski could have just stepped and received the ball anyway. But James is on it fast. He saw this coming, gets the ball. And what he does next went unnoticed by me and a lot of people, but Taylor's beady eye spotted it.
My beady eyes. Yeah, I do want to say the throw-in to Piszczek, I actually put that on. Who was it who took it? You just said his name.
I said Brzezinski, number 19. I'm not 100% sure.
We'll say that's probably him. Either way,
he was 18, so it was Zielinski.
Okay. Yeah. He throws it in the worst possible spot because if you're checking away and checking two and your teammate throws it to you, you either want it to your feet so you can lay it off, or you want it to your chest and you can do the power chest back.
Yeah.
He hits him in like the gut area so that Piszczek has to jump to try to pass it back. That's why he mishits it.
This is all part of Poland hurrying things, right?
Exactly.
Because they're 2-0 down and they're desperate.
And what James does is, as you said, he reads that this reverse pass or the return pass is coming, and he steps in and he, for lack of a better term, it looks like salsa dancing. Like he does a bunch of steps in place, he moves the hips, and both Polish players expect him to take the ball back towards his own goal.
Yeah.
And then James just turns. Again, he doesn't take his first touch until he is turned completely and is facing the Poland goal. Then he takes a touch, then he takes another touch, then he plays in probably the best ball we've seen of the tournament.
I'm going to say these are two of my favourite things in soccer that I want to be able to do and either don't have the confidence or technique to ever fully pull off.
Yeah.
It's beating players without touching the ball, which I think is an amazing skill to do.
Yep.
That's what James does first. And then this ball that he plays with his left foot that essentially drives in behind the defenders and bends just a little bit. Into the path of the onrushing Cuadrado. I love that ball.
Oh, yeah.
So anytime I look at a back four, not that this was a back four because Poland are all over the place, but or even a back three, I always think if you can just hit the ball straight and bend, you can beat the entire defence and put it in front of a teammate. James did it.
He did. And he had been calling.
He touched the Holy Grail.
He had been screaming for the ball like 30 seconds earlier because he had that space. And I think now we see what he can do when he has space out of the channel. It's put in an inch perfect ball for Juan Cuadrado. And I think the thing that really slams the door shut as this being one of the probably the best goal of the day, one of the best goals of the tournament, is that Cuadrado's run and finish are very impressive in and of themselves.
Yeah.
Because he's at full speed, he's got defenders chasing him down. He does the skilled veteran forward thing where he takes a touch across the defender, so now the defender is fouling and getting a red card. Or can't make a play and has to slow up. Then he finishes expertly. He opens up his hips. He passes it in. It's very calm, and it is very pretty.
Oh, Cuadrado. Yeah, and Cuadrado needed that as well because he was the guy that was in many ways sacrificed, brought off after the Carlos Sanchez red card in the game against Japan, right? So now Cuadrado's back on top of the world.
He did, as somebody on Twitter said, again, apologies, he said, I think it was, he still made some interesting decisions because there was one where he tried to flick it over his own head and the defenders, and he kind of messed that up, and it almost led to a Polish counterattack. So he still made some somewhat selfish decisions, but overall a much better game for him than being subbed out in the first half.
I just think he fits in so well, though, when you've got the Quintero and James double playmaker thing, when you've got Radamel Falcao's hold-up play. I think what Cuadrado offers on that right wing just clicks in perfectly. Yeah. Oh, all right, Colombia. All respect to Poland, who have not had a good tournament, and Polish fans. I'm very happy that Colombia have won this game and are staying alive in this tournament because they proved to us today they are an entertaining team to watch. So a good Colombia is good for the World Cup.
Yep, absolutely. And now, as things stand, they do control their own fate. It's Japan top of the group with 4 points, Senegal second with 4 points as well, Colombia third with 3. So it's going to be Colombia-Senegal on that final day. A result, probably they need to get that win, will send Colombia through.
What happens if they draw?
I think they have superior goal difference, strangely, so then it requires Japan to lose to Poland.
Interesting. All right. Well, we'll do more on that when we get to our preview of Group H, which will be the final group we preview next week. Because the way things are going to work going forward, starting on Monday, it's 2 groups at a time, 2 matches at a time.
That is correct.
And alphabetically, you'll get the early alphabet games at 10 a.m. and the later alphabet games at 2 p.m.
I was so confused. I was like, wait, are they going like alphabetical order for the final round? You meant Group A and Group B. I'm with you now.
So on Monday, Group A, it is Russia and Uruguay play each other at 10 a.m. Also at 10 a.m., Saudi Arabia, Egypt. The way Group A stands. By the way, these kickoffs are all simultaneous so that no team has an advantage by knowing what has happened in the other game. That's why they do it this way.
It sure is.
That's also why there's Fox and Fox Sports 1. So Group A is really straightforward, right? Russia and Uruguay both have 6 points. Egypt and Saudi Arabia both have 0 points. Egypt, Saudi Arabia cannot advance. They are just playing for pride and enjoying their last moments at the World Cup. Russia right now are top of the group on goal difference with +7. Uruguay are second with +2. So if Russia-Uruguay finishes in a draw, Russia are top. If Uruguay need to win to go top, essentially, yeah?
And I don't really know if either of these teams is going to care one way or the other.
You never know, right? You never know till you see it.
I'm inclined to believe that Russia would like to win. Given home soil, keep the momentum going, it's probably Russia who are going to be very much gunning for all 3 points to come out of this group undefeated, 9 points. That's a very strong tournament already for the home nation.
Although, if you want to avoid the doping test suspicion, maybe you throw this game. I've read those stories.
Yeah.
I've read those stories.
As have I. One thing to keep an eye on for Russia, Smolov and Golovin both have yellow cards from their previous games. Another yellow card for either one of them means they will miss the knockout round fixture.
So watch if Golovin plays, you can watch him maybe back out of a couple of tackles.
Go into tackles.
Be careful. Speaking of Smolov, he's the striker that started the tournament, was replaced in the second game by Zuba.
He sure was.
And Zuba, the big guy, put on a show.
He sure did.
My question for this is, how strong is the team that Russia chooses, right? Because this happens in the third games in the group stage. Sometimes teams that are qualified decide, we're going to just field a slightly weakened team. We're going to give the guys who didn't get any minutes earlier, we're going to let them go out there, still try and win, but maybe not play our strongest hand.
I mean, that's part of like the complication when it comes to doing this type of preview.
Yeah.
I don't know. Because I think there is something to be said for keeping the rhythm going, keeping the kind of momentum going.
Yep.
If you want to make sure that your chemistry is improving and Golovin knows exactly where to play the ball in for Zuba to knock down for Cheryshev to score a goal.
We know that that's a fact.
Right. I mean, then maybe you want to keep like kind of building that familiarity in actual competitions as opposed to in training. But also, there's an argument to be made for like slowing it down, making sure everybody's rested, making sure you don't risk suspensions or injuries.
And a guy like Ignashevich, the 38-year-old centre-back who's played both their games for Russia so far, it makes perfect sense to me that Cheryshev would rest Ignashevich so that he can be, fully ready to go in the round of 16 game.
I'll say this, that is true. I'll say this. I hope they don't sit Zuba because I would love to see Zuba versus Diego Godin. We know Jimenez will be out. Jose Jimenez will be out with an injury.
That's Godin's normal centre-back partner for club and country.
Yes, the Thunder gods are not pleased about that. We apologize, Thor. It seems like we've got a big old storm coming into Richmond. But I would like to see that clash. But I'm also curious to see who rests and maybe if we see Cheryshev add to his goal tally. Harry Kane is now top of the tournament. Is Cheryshev going to stand for that? We'll find out.
Also, we'll find out, assuming that Uruguay play their starting strikers, Suarez and Cavani, how does this Russia defence stand up to its first real test? Because Saudi Arabia did not test them in that first game, 5-0, right? Egypt, unfortunately, did not give them much of the test because Russia cut off the service to Mohamed Salah. So this might be the first time that Russian defence has been tested.
Yes, and this is, again, a situation where you want your manager or the coach to have that confidence because you can easily Princess Bride this scenario. Because it can be like, well, our starting defenders haven't come up against super strong competition in this tournament, so maybe we want them to play against Uruguay. But then maybe Uruguay are very good and we get embarrassed. Or maybe teams can see what we do defensively. Maybe we don't want to give too much away. Like you can keep going around in circles and it really just comes down to what the manager thinks is best. And then we criticize it afterwards if he's wrong. Obviously.
I don't think that word means what you think it means. All right, so that game is 10 a.m. on Fox, Homer Simpson Fox, Empire Fox. On Fox Sports 1, as we said, it's Saudi Arabia versus Egypt. Unfortunately, we're not going to preview this game because for the neutrals, there's really nothing at stake. I'm sure Saudi Arabia fans and Egypt fans will watch because it's the pride of the World Cup, right? I watched England-Costa Rica in 2014.
That must have been fun.
Even though England were definitely out, right? Maybe if you are watching on Fox Sports 1, you'll just be seeing, will Mohamed Salah play? He probably will, right? Because it might be at least his last game at this World Cup. So just see if Salah can add a little something special at the World Cup.
All right, then what about at 2 p.m., Daryl?
2 p.m., we move on to Group B. So Group A is almost like a warm-up in terms of your calculator, right? Group B is where you get the more you get the mathematical scientific calculator out.
Yeah, it's a little complicated because right now Spain and Portugal joint top, 4 points, goal difference of +1, same goals for, same goals against. So I think
Spain are top based on fair play.
Yep, you are correct. I think they have 1 yellow card for Sergio Busquets. Portugal have 2 for Adrian Silva, Bruno Fernandes.
There you go.
That's why Spain are top. Will that remain the case? I guess is a question that Iran and Morocco will factor into.
So yeah, Spain on 4, Portugal on 4, Iran on 3, and Morocco on 0. So it's Iran who have a chance here.
It is.
And the game on Fox, on Big Bang Fox, X-Files Fox, is Iran versus Portugal. In this game, Portugal qualify with a draw or a win. Iran basically need to win. There's a mathematical complicated thing where a draw could be enough, but they're not going to go into this thinking a draw is going to be enough. So you're going to see that Iran team that put on that defensive display against Spain go out needing to win. And I'm curious, Taylor, what you think they'll do.
I think that they've gotten here by being defensive, by being resolutely defensive and looking to counter. I think that's what they will do. I don't think you just change it all at the last minute. And and to be frank, they're not as talent-wise, they're not as depth as Portugal or Spain. So they don't have as much depth, excuse me. So I don't think you have the ability to say, never mind, we're playing a back 3 and we're going to do this. We're going to change to a possession-based system. I think they're going to hope that Portugal take the initiative and get stretched a little bit, or they can find some vulnerabilities on set pieces and then maybe sneak that 1 goal and then defend for their lives.
I really agree with you here, and I think this is a smart way of looking at soccer, which is it's kind of a Jose Mourinho thing, right? Just because you need to win a game doesn't mean that you throw it all out there to begin with, right? You don't send your keeper up for corner kicks in the first minute, for example. So Iran will try and
we've
win
already established 83rd or 84th.
Iran will try and win it with defending and then counterattacks to Sada Azmoun, the big striker, who I've put a lot of stock.
You sure have.
I've bought a lot of Azmoun stock. I've seen flashes of it. I've seen him Zlatan-esque take balls out of the air, but we haven't quite had the Sada Azmoun moment where he wins a towering header and surprises everybody.
No.
But I do think that at some point, I think Portugal will sit and counter because that's what they always do, right? Portugal sat and countered against Spain and it worked for them. They are pretty good on the counter-attack. I think at some point you will see Iran have to flip the switch and decide, all right, we've tried defending counter for long enough. It's not working. Portugal aren't biting. Then they have to really move up a gear and start sending people forward. That's when I think this game will set on fire.
Yes.
In a good way.
Or they'll have to get stretched and get destroyed. It could go any number of ways. I'm really hoping it doesn't go that way. One thing I will be keeping an eye on, left back Ehsan Hashsafi picked up a thigh injury, may not play. If he doesn't play, then that means most likely Milan Mohammadi will come in. And here's what I want to see. Do we see another flip throw in this game? Because he went for it, he failed, and then he just had to do a normal throw. But if he starts...
That was in the dying minutes of a game as well, right? It was kind of heartbreaking because you know he can do it, right? He wouldn't be attempting that at a World Cup for the first time. And it just didn't come off.
I don't think it was him. I forget which Iranian player it was that threw up at midfield. Oh, that was a Tunisian player. Never mind. But yeah, it wasn't that nervous. But still, I want to see if he tries to redeem himself with a flip throw.
I also think for Iran, Jahanbakhsh will start.
Yeah, I think so.
I think he wasn't the guy to go against Spain when they were going more defensive, but I think even if they're going to defend and counter, Jahanbakhsh is this really talented winger. He has a few Ronaldo moves, right? He can do the Ronaldo chop, for example. Not the best crosser of the ball. Sometimes he just does the straight-up chip, similar to Sakai's chip for Japan today. Keep an eye on Jahanbakhsh to Sada Azmoun. Please, guys, pay off for me. I've been previewing this every single game.
Yeah,
Sada
like
Azmoun
just keep digging deeper.
In the air.
Keep
Come
digging
on,
deeper.
number 12.
I look forward to it not happening and Daryl trying to rationalize it. Well, he did have that one knockdown that led to a shot from 40 yards out. And I know you said you think Portugal will bunker. I'm just curious to see which Portugal we see, because obviously they did sit back and counter and cause problems against Morocco. Against Spain, they were very much open. They were much more...
They were not. So against Spain, this is a myth. I think against Spain, they did defend and counter, but the thing they did differently is normally they counter in a non-pacey way, right? They just counter and then cross to Ronaldo. Against Spain, they included Guedes players and they countered at pace. Normally they don't counter at pace and commit numbers forward. So that's the difference, right? They defend and counter, but when they counter now, they will send numbers forward.
I don't know, Daryl. Their 34% possession statistic tells me that they had lots of possession. Yeah, you're probably right.
Did you set yourself up for that, or did you just research that?
I just had it in front of me and just failed to notice it before. So no, I think you're right. Then it probably will be that, and it will be which team, as I often point to, leaves the high ground first.
There you go. Other thing is, Ronaldo, I believe, is very happy to be in the Golden Boot race.
Yep.
Harry Kane is 1 ahead of him right now. He's level with Romelu Lukaku on 4. Don't be surprised if Ronaldo...
Ronaldo is level,
yes, don't be surprised if Ronaldo gets himself a goal here.
All right, well, final game of the day at the same time.
Yes.
The final game we're going to be previewing, Spain-Morocco.
So the situation is Spain are good with a draw, right? Spain can go through with a draw. They could maybe even go through with a loss if that Iran-Portugal game is also a draw. Morocco, they're out.
Yep.
Morocco have 0 points. They're not catching anyone. But they have played a really pressing and then passing, high-energy, exciting style of soccer. People were really impressed with them. They just haven't got their reward. They essentially, we've known this from the start, right, because we did our research. They're essentially, they play a Spanish style.
Yep.
I think this game's going to be thrilling because I think Morocco have nothing to lose. They just kind of want to put on a show. So they're going to go out there and they're going to press and pass and they're going to go out in style. Go down swinging if they have to.
They haven't scored yet in this tournament. And I think that's the thing that they're going to try to rectify aggressively tomorrow. Maybe they'll play some players who haven't gotten minutes. That seems less likely to me. That doesn't seem like the time to throw new players on and say, have fun, kids. Certainly not against Spain, who, as you said, don't necessarily need a win, but won't be inclined to just give up goals and let Morocco have fun.
So I would say keep an eye on Dira, the right back who couldn't play the first game. He was really impressive when I saw him in the previous game against Portugal. Then also keep an eye on Ziyech. We keep previewing Hakim Ziyech, the Ajax player. He thinks he's too good for Ajax. He's ready to move on to a bigger team. That should tell you how talented Hakim Ziyech is. He'll be looking to do something against Spain. I can't believe I just said he'll be looking to. That's my least favourite preview thing, but I actually think he will be trying to put on a bit of a show.
That's great. You just tried to change it, but you still said he will be. So, you're going to be in the quiet box for a moment while I say I'll be looking at Spain's midfield for 2 reasons. One, because they've rotated who started there. We saw Koke in the first game. We haven't seen Thiago start. Vasquez in the second game.
Is it fair to say that Hierro,
yes, it is fair to say what you're about to say,
Lopetegui, is less of a fan of Thiago than Lopetegui was? It seems that way from the starting lineup.
Or just maybe wants to go with a little bit more like grit or pace, and maybe thinks Thiago offers that possession ability. So who starts in the midfield, I'm curious about. And also keeping an eye on Sergio Busquets. Is on a yellow card, so one more means he is suspended in the next round, should they make it, which they most likely will.
Is it possible Busquets doesn't play this game? Is Spain so confident of going through that they can rest Busquets and make sure he doesn't get a yellow and then he's available for the round of 16?
It's possible, but as I talked about in my my preview of the tournament with some of the teams leaving behind important players, there really isn't another holding midfielder.
Athletic?
Yeah.
We didn't have that conversation.
We did not. I wrote an article about it. They really didn't bring another holding midfielder aside from Sergio Busquets. It could be Thiago, potentially, but that's the only wrinkle there is nobody can do what Busquets does as well as Busquets does.
That's true of the whole world, though.
That is very true. But I think it's a big drop-off. And again, because you've had that managerial change, I don't know if Hierro trusts Thiago to do the Busquets role.
One thing I could see is maybe Diego Costa getting at least a rest, maybe not a whole game, right? Maybe Aspas gets to go or Rodrigo gets to go in this game.
Yeah, I think that's a safe bet.
It's really hard to predict the lineups for these final games.
Well, and I would add, because I think one thing that maybe we've also seen from the officials in this tournament is they're learning from mistakes, they're learning from quote-unquote mistakes, and they're learning from incidents that maybe didn't get caught and then got coverage. Diego Costa, there was the story about him, berating the Iranian player. I forget who it was. He said he insulted everyone in his life, something like that. There's been the step on the foot. There have just been little moments, there have been shoves, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him get a rest just because maybe referees will be taking a closer look at him.
So Diego Costa does not have a yellow card yet this tournament? Remember that time when he blatantly fouled 2 people and what he got for it was a goal?
Yep.
Yeah.
Remember that time he definitely intentionally stepped on a player's foot and cursed at him in the same moment and didn't get a card? Yeah. Yeah, I remember those.
Okay, so the way we'll review these games is, or this is the way we'll watch them. Russia, Uruguay on the big screen, right? See what's going on. We'll keep an eye on Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and maybe just report the goals if some good goals happen or any good action happens. I think Iran-Portugal is the game to watch in Group
Agreed.
B, because
Yes.
it's the one where two teams have something to play for. But I think on a smaller screen, we should have an eye on Spain-Morocco, because I really think it's going to be open and exciting and entertaining. It'll be a festival of passing and possessing and pressing.
No arguments here.
But Iran-Portugal is where the focus should be, I think.
I'm kind of confused as to why you're talking, because I don't believe you were let out of the quiet box, but I guess, you got to do what you got to do.
The purpose of the box is twofold. So there's your Group A and Group B previews. Those games are on Monday.
It hurts.
You can figure out from 8 groups. We're going to go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 2 groups per day, 10 a.m., 2 p.m. Then everybody gets a rest on Friday before the knockout rounds begin.
Including us.
Including us.
I hope, right? You're not going to make me go back to my hole that I alluded to yesterday, are you?
I'm going to bring you back in studio. We're going to do a 2014 Europa League review.
Oh, God. No.
All right. We are done. Group A, Group B, consider yourselves previewed. Taylor, I'll meet you back here tomorrow. But thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
A single tear rolled down my cheek at the prospect of previewing more things. But yes, right back at you, buddy.
I'm enjoying it. Listeners, thank you for listening. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.